Yeah. Oliver gave me word for word. What? So I read it. I'm going to have to preface it that this is coming from Coach and not myself, so I'm not paying myself to pay me.
Hi Drew, how are you?
He does really think that to be a lot of that's not here. That's why.
Of course you want that.
Yes. Yes. That was brutal. This will be quick. Good. Oh, yeah. Just all here. I got a lot of that.
I was about to say.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
No,
I knew nothing about it all.
That was good.
she's not coming.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay. I don't know if they have an name.
He said. Next 3 months.
Kate Weiss, do you have more?
Yeah, so what is it, the, yes, so there's, yeah,
Yeah.
we come back a second.
Second, they say no. All it works. It's your first. And that's those software and then it's called.
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
I don't take pictures and shaking
Monday the 23rd, I'm here at the Tues basketball game, so I'm here. I'll get all that ready.
Yeah.
And then we are hosting the Boys Holiday Tournament on the 27th and 28th, so I'm here all day live. So, I mean, I'm tired.
Over by the circle. No.
But
50.
it's worth it.
Yeah. 50.
So worth
2
it.
days off to have.
Yeah.
Oh, that's huge. Have a break, broke it up.
That's every door outside. There's 52.
My first day here was December 21st.
No,
My
there's
first
only
day
for 5.
December 21st. So I worked 3 days.
Oh, really?
We had Christmas break.
That's what we.
December 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. I didn't go on break starting on the 23rd. So I had 3.
What a way to start.
I know. And I had come from, Trinity Science Center.
Okay.
And so holidays were our busiest time.
Yeah.
So I had scheduled, my schedule before I turned in my resignation, I was working from 8 a.m. to.
Dr. Ward.
Hey there everyone, how are you?
I'm working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi. How are you? Really, you're gonna be here.
I have, yeah, no opinion. They're all.
Oh, boy.
Hi, Drew.
Hey, Maria.
Hi, John.
Good, you?
Huh?
What?
What?
I said, how are you doing?
Oh.
How are you?
I'm good. Where's everybody? Oh, I'm awesome. Well, everything. No, because we're doing one now. Really? Well, we can do.
Who else is on? Do you know? Or that's it? You never heard.
They just found out who won the last.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Like,
It's electric, so it might, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so the parents can see it. I feel you too. She's
What?
special advisor at the state.
That's the only question.
He mentioned.
Same old, same old.
Yeah.
Anything in particular up or same old, same old?
Yeah.
He wasn't.
Works, kids.
How many kids you have, too?
Two. They're teenagers, so
Oh, yeah.
that's crap.
There's an entire South Park. It's just like, yeah, once they become teenagers, they just turn into like monsters. It's like the whole gag.
Yeah, they always have something going on. Like tonight's hockey, dance.
Well, especially hockey, that's.
That's amazing.
It's ridiculous. Brandon plays on 3 teams. He plays on Team Pennsylvania. He almost made Team USA. They would have went to Europe.
Does he play ice?
Ice and that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's wild.
By himself.
We plugged it in.
I know they're about that was very feels like he's by himself.
They got this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably about other cafeteria.
I think they went out towards the art, like out the
Yeah.
art hallway.
You didn't have somebody who went to the state. He had a position posted, but until it was filled, it's not yours. Well, take that.
Yeah, they did you see them?
No,
They have them down for most.
Okay. Maybe they did.
No.
I thought she did. Oh, I think I got another one, another applicant there. That's why I asked Lisa last night, Adams, a couple pictures of my building. Recruited her. She's going to school, I think, for HR. So they're like, I knew this one. So you can build up, I mean,
But they're really
education,
asking for like.
you can start accumulating your years of ASCRS. And, you know, like, get in there and do it. Wow, we have a girl, she's in the EUS right now. She handled.
If you're asking my opinion, it's obligated to give you an offer.
Another mission when she's there.
But I don't know.
And they never communicated to him from emails that I saw.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if it's-
Yeah,
if he doesn't want to do it, short notice like that.
maybe I should tell him that.
They are. They're so happy. They want it. Let's give it to them.
I thought I did, and then it. It's like there's some care switching around. Look, you guys, please let me know.
Would be under their auspices. So
Yeah, it's all.
Because I don't want to force it.
No.
My son does like this, and
I used to be able to do that in
It's almost
high school.
does this, everything just.
Yeah, it felt so good.
She's a
when I
supervisor
was
right
doing
now,
that.
she's almost done.
I feel like I need it,
Yeah, she has
and
one
then
year.
try and it doesn't work, and it's just
So,
like,
and she's good, like, she's good.
I'm jealous.
Okay,
So, really cool, fun all over. Sports order. Yeah, that would do it. Yeah. You want to be back up? Yeah.
catching these people that, well,
That's $100 cost.
I was on the track team too, I was on the throwing team. But
You need a chocolate?
Huh? You ever worked at?
I like javelin.
That's
Yeah,
it,
that's
because they have to go to grow the trust, they have to grow, not just me,
Just
but
like turning around with
vision,
the
like,
chocolate and.
see
I
my
just
kids.
use the chocolate, I
You
didn't,
know, I'm trying to get one over on you, you're my problem.
I didn't do that chocolate.
I have that one internalized,
I do
I
not
have a
do
little
that.
rating on it.
My sister told me.
I would research, yes, it's behavior problems.
Here?
And we could tie it
I'll
to
say to get the-
data.
With the board
Those
downstairs.
to trade for data, we could ensure that we're not missing anybody. So the PBIS is like external, and then you see the behavior. And that screening tool that they put on, like that we're reading about. And it covers both internalized and external. You could use
Useful.
both data sets to eliminate discrimination outreach behaviors.
It was a little public.
And you could ensure that you were accurately identifying kids. I mean, do you see that we do?
High school.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I'm just kidding myself. I'm just kidding like. I'm just,
Yes.
I'm just kidding like, I'm just trying to like make sure I'm like, I'm speaking
Absolutely.
from a place of like accuracy.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
I was just looking, you know, while you were talking.
Thank God you're here.
I said I was looking at you while you were talking.
You did it.
You and this little angel.
Work that one.
And that's jokes.
Much less I've been offered here.
Okay.
And I was working. And the IU was very heavily talking. He was sitting like on the cabinet. In that position, in addition to that position, he had two positions in student services. Like other supervisors. Either I get to get one, like, and this job was like insane, and the job was crazy. I just need to make more money. For this one, I could do it, or I go to a job elsewhere, or to make less work. If that was not, because this is insane. And I really, I would like to see at the table, like,
You want to do the volleyball team?
Jimmy, whatever. I think it's about that.
Yes.
and then I said,
So,
That's the, like, that's, yeah, that's what I'm super talking about.
I'm not just.
they, decided to move to
Salaries
Pittsburgh.
of other people,
So-
and the different, like,
Well, that's what,
much
that's
higher.
probably.
Yeah, to cut it, but, and then I said,
The flag football?
All that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's, well, I'm always fine.
women leaders in our organization.
Sure.
So, and I said, I don't
Yeah, I guess, the ones organizing is,
understand, like,
What is
like,
it?
yeah, matters, and like, it's true. He says to me, oh, I'm like, okay. So I left. I'm still waiting to hear back. So, that's what I just said.
You know where you're going from here?
I think out there is right.
Out, right, yep. There you go. And that's a different way from here.
Thanks.
No, look at that dress of yours. Come in.
Let's see, water sports.
What?
I don't live in the work area.
I know, it'll be sometime in the next couple of weeks, the next one's starting in December.
Yeah.
So I'll go to Tina. Official start of winter sports is Friday, so we'll probably,
Okay.
Hey, what's up? How are you? How's it going? Good to see you. How's it going?
Yeah.
37 swamps. Yeah, something like that. I'm waiting for the second. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting, but I'm close. Yeah, well,
Can you make a decision yet?
yeah, good. She is?
Yeah. Sure, right here.
No, we're months away.
Not you.
Yes, I am.
Nice to meet you. You probably got one.
I know, so
How are you?
Good, how are you?
how are you? Good to see you.
Well, I don't probably sit there.
Congratulations.
I won't be able to see. But I might always sit there.
Well, I
With this
understand.
computer. I'm just gonna put this in and replace it.
Decide where you're gonna sit.
That'll not stop.
That's right.
Good.
Six days.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, don't you want to sit in the back when you get up and leave?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so,
Hey guys. There he is.
How are you?
What is, even you and Turner's, like, what is this with soccer coaches and Turner's team?
I mean, that's.
I don't understand
I'm the
this.
OG.
Like, I've never,
I'm the OG.
like, trust me,
I do-
not looking to change any soccer coaches.
anytime soon. But way down the road, whenever we have to, that's going to be a question. You like to see.
I've literally been drinking that. Actually,
Boys were still
anyway, so what is it?
No, he told you, so you'll have this. Yeah, I just. Perfect. No, that's perfect because all I'm going to do is introduce you. And then you go ahead and call them on. Give them their certificate and talks. You can do this stuff first, and then, or if you want to call them up so they're sitting next to you. I think it's nice to have them up there while you're in your health, and so they can all. Yeah. You haven't heard from them. These two that by the cause. As you say,
So who's
So which two are
Gianna and Megan.
So I just did the seniors.
Rather than the seniors, possibly don't.
right up
Where do you want to get
What did they get? I don't think that. Well, I can move.
So what's going on? Well, this is strong. Another procedure.
Yeah.
Here at the last one. Even when I'm off this weekend, we're at the emergency room Friday, Saturday. Friday. Test on. Friday, Saturday next week. We got a test on Monday. We got a surgery next Friday. And then hospital the weekend before. It's just been all like crazy. Yeah, although what you'll decide, what you'll find is so Raph drinks hard.
Yeah.
Which is like what I use. Hard way up top, so I like the Johnson better, right? Me,
No, it can't be done.
it's just that's just so where are we here?
So, this is first. Then there's elementary school recognition.
That's it.
And their voice goal, we asked them.
They can
Lady. You're trying to kill me, Jake.
Luckily for me, I'm working on Yeah. Front chair. I'm a soccer here. Yeah. Oh, that's supposed to be important. Got a couple of yeah, it's my fault.
No, I do work. I think she's okay.
Is that live?
No, I thought that. Oh. Yeah. That's their offense.
Makes me sad. I'm gonna watch it.
Good deal.
I saw that. Register normal.
Mike was like, he's got this like,
No, it was just a form that I sent you. That's all.
okay, that's friends.
So that they can grant him that 1 year of the NAA eligibility.
Okay. Which is
Yeah. And if like, even if you register and we upload kids to the, or you have any issues with that, we have to do that. Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
All good. All good. Yeah.
That's alright. I have this. How you doing? I like that you guys love this.
I just recently changed, I'm in my third week at my new job. For 2 years I was going out to
No, like I feel every year.
yeah, but not in the
Yeah, seriously. One way.
They do every year.
That's a little bit better.
All year.
Find a way to lose everything.
That's a big difference. And at that point, you just want to be let me tell you, the 3 minutes to be changed. Right up the road.
I got a partner back
I'd
there.
rather they call their own game.
What's that? This company left me hanging here. I was the only one from here down to Dayton.
No other school put up with it. Michigan would have fired me years ago. Or was he doesn't get anything.
I have a written thing that
If I can have your attention, please. If I can have your attention, we're going to call to order the combined discussion and action voting meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Macro, roll call.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Dr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Arendt.
Here.
Ms. Chudderwitz.
Here.
Mr. Caligiuri.
Here.
Dr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Sokolsky.
Here.
Mrs. Stepnick.
Here.
Mr. Strotke.
Here.
And Student Representative Mr. Drew Thacker.
Here.
Thank you. The board met in executive session on November 12th, 2024 to discuss matters of litigation, safety, personnel, and real estate. We're going to move on to recognitions. I would like for you guys to know we're excited that you are all with us here this evening. As a courtesy to each of the students being recognized, we ask that all audience members remain in the meeting during the recognitions. We want each student to have a special moment of recognition free from the distraction of others, socializing, or making their way to the exit. I promise you, once the recognition portion of the meeting has concluded, we will pause and you can leave if you would like to so you don't have to stay for the duration of our meeting. For the seniors being recognized this evening, we'd like for you to share about your future academic, extracurricular, or professional plans following graduation. Coaches and leaders, please don't let them slip away when they're up here. And lastly, after each group's recognition, if you'll please make your way to the banner so we can get a picture, that would be wonderful. Mrs. Macro.
We'd first ask Dr. Franchula from Holiday Park to step to the podium.
Good evening. At this time, I'd like to present to the school board the Holiday Park student government leaders, Mr. Bruce Schaefer and Mrs. Michelle Corna, to tell you about the wonderful event and fundraising that our student government has led, and one in particular that coincided with Veterans Day. So at this time, Mr. Schaefer and Mrs. Corna.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Schaefer. I am co-sponsor of the Holiday Park student government. As Dr. Schulich just said, we just got done celebrating our Veterans Day. Did a lot of planning and organizing, and this year was a huge success. At the beginning of the school year, we were planning on what should we do for Veterans Day. And our music teacher, Mrs. March, said, hey, it would be a really good idea if we can bring in her husband to talk to the kids of a day in a life of what it would be like to be a veteran, to be somebody that is serving our great nation. We thought it was an excellent idea. So we reached out to Mrs. March and we said, hey, what else can we do? And she said, you know what, they're in Africa and the temperature is about 102 degrees. And she said, you know those little water packets that kids put into their water bottles? It's like gold over there. And I said, you know what, Mrs. Corner? Let's do a fundraiser. Let's see if we could do a little competition between 5th and 6th grade to see who can bring in the most little drink pouch, water enhancement flavors. At first we were thinking, oh, a couple hundred, 200, 300 we'll send over to the soldiers. They will appreciate it. Well, the competition took off. And boy, did it take off. The first day that we were over 300 drink packets. The next day, 500. We broke 1,000 in the first 3 days. And we kept on giving the kids updates, and the kids got even more encouraged to bringing in. It became a rival. Every day was an update. Who was winning? We combined, totaled 5,000 drink packets that we're able to send over. This is a huge success from the students that we have behind, because they were the ones promoting it. They were the ones that were going into the classroom and explaining everything. So on Veterans Day, we were able to have Sergeant Marks come in and talk to the kids, and then they were also going to find out who the winning team or winning grade was, and it was 5th grade. 5th grade did win the competition, so they earned a little extra recess. So they can add on to that 10 minutes of extra recess, they can get now 20 minutes of extra recess for their combined efforts. But I'm here to showcase our student government. We have a lot of great ideas, and the ideas are coming from the kids that we see here behind us. Some of the spotlights that we're going to be doing throughout the year, we're going to work with Ridgewood Senior Citizen Home. We're going to go to them, and we're going to play bingo with them once a month. We're also going to be helping out with our Make-A-Wish efforts. We got done doing our jog-a-thon that we're pretty close to $10,000 when we're all said and done with the jog-a-thon, where the students were running around laps, giving up their recess time to raise money for Make-A-Wish. And the last thing that I'd like to spotlight is a couple of our students were saying, hey, Mr. Schaefer, let's do a fundraiser, and we're going to be spotlighting students with epilepsy. It was brought to our attention by the student government that we should showcase it. So at Holiday Park, we're going to start on every Mondays to wear purple to show our support for students with epilepsy, because one of our members of student government, their best friend has epilepsy. So if we can give a little bit of promotion to them to say that we're supporting them, I think that's what our whole student government is about, making Holiday Park a better school. So at this time, I want to turn it over to my co-sponsor, Mrs. Corna, and she's going to introduce this great group of students that we have behind us.
Our next competition is on the Plum Food Pantry Drive.
Oh.
Yes. Their goal is 500 items for the opportunity to have PJ Day. So that's starting tomorrow. So they're super excited about that. But our 5th grade officers will recognize them first. We have President Jordan Iannotti. We have Vice President William Lewis. Secretary Sophia Altrudo. And we have Treasurer Brooklyn Trevett. And for our 6th grade officers, we have Joey Burns. Our Vice President, Colton Colgren, could not be here this evening. Our Secretary, Alexis Letzelter. And our 6th grade Treasurer, Anthony Breen. You guys have done great work, and Mr. Schaefer and I are so excited about the rest of the year. Thank you, and thank you for all.
If we can have you all step back to the purple backdrop and we'll get a picture. You're also welcome to step over there or turn around and take a picture of the group all together. Okay, next we would like to ask Mr. Drew Carbon from the Athletics Department to step to the podium.
Good evening. We had a fairly successful fall sports season, so much so that we are splitting our recognitions up into 2 different months. Tonight we would like to recognize 2 groups, the girls soccer team and also the boys golf team. So first, to recognize the girls soccer team, I'd like to invite Coach Bob Kovac up.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to recognize the accomplishments of this great group of young ladies. The 2024 girls soccer team had another fantastic season. They finished the year with a record of 17-3, including a 6th straight section championship and an appearance in the Whitfield semifinals. I couldn't be prouder of the effort of these girls that they put in this season to achieve the goals they set forth at the beginning of the year. Along the way, the girls learned life lessons about setting goals, dealing with adversity, and teamwork. Our hope as coaches, if the girls take those lessons and apply them in their lives going forward. I would like to recognize the seniors who have left their mark on this program. I wish them the best of luck in their future endeavors. McKenna Anderson, the captain in all section selection. Gia Babylon, as you may have seen, she tore her ACL mid-season, but Gia, great season, great career. Serena Carnahan, the captain in all section and all Whitfield selection. Leonardo, a captain in an all section selection. And Katie Weiss, the captain in an all section selection. I'd also like to take a quick minute to recognize a few players that couldn't be here. They're not seniors, but Emily Grubich was an all section and all Whitfield player. Gianna Rivetta was an all section selection, and Megan Stammer was an all section selection as well. Congratulations, ladies, on being recognized for your outstanding contributions. I would also like to thank Drew for all of his assistance this fall, and a special thanks to our parents, our families, friends, teachers, school board members for your continued support of this group of student athletes. I couldn't be prouder of the 2024 girls soccer team. Thank you, and girls, they can't wait to hear what you do.
Hi, I'm McKenna Anderson, and I will be attending Chatham University in fall 2025 for elementary education.
I'm Leonardo, and I'm going to the University of Pittsburgh for physical therapy.
Hi, I'm Serena Carnahan, and I plan on continuing my soccer career in college and majoring in biology.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Weiss, and I'm planning to continue my academic and athletic career and majoring in clinical psychology. Hi, I'm Gia Babylon. I plan on continuing my academic and hopefully athletic career and majoring in civil engineering.
And Coach, if you would join them too, Coach.
All right, next team that we would like to recognize is the boys golf team, so if the members in attendance can come up. Coach Nonberg was not able to make it tonight, so he did actually prepare a written statement that I will be reading on his behalf. Good evening. First, I would like to congratulate all the athletes and coaches here this evening. I would like to thank the school board for recognizing our athletes. I would like to thank the athletic department for their support. Thank you to Pat McAfee for also supporting the golf team in all Plum athletics the past 2 years. He has purchased year and junior memberships at Willowbrook Country Club for the golf teams. This has been a tremendous impact on the development of our players. I would also like to thank Fisher Bagaitis, who coached the JV team this year, and Andrew Reynolds, who volunteered his time to help me with the varsity team. Before I get into the rest of it, the members of the varsity golf team are senior Wes Lorish, senior Tim Pease, senior Chase Urban, sophomore Gavin Galkick, not here. We have junior Tyler Pastor, junior Danny Caruso, also not in attendance, senior Blaine Favero, as well as junior Jonah Rush. What these boys accomplished this year was truly remarkable. They won the first section title in 36 years for Plum. And it's the first one since 1988. It's a big deal, especially being in a section with Central Catholic. They were able to overcome them. That is just remarkable. The team advanced to the Whitfield semifinals, made it to the finals for the second time in 3 years. The third place finish was the highest since the 1969 Whitfield Championship team from Plum that is being inducted actually into the Hall of Fame this Thursday. This is a tremendous accomplishment and is a testament to the hard work this team has put in. A high school golf team is made up of 8 individuals that must work together. Every player on the team contributed in some capacity at a high level this season. Each and every player should be proud of their accomplishments. Individually, Wes Lorish and Tim Pease qualified for Whitfield semifinals, and Wes qualified for the Whitfield finals at Oakmont Country Club. He carded a 74 and finished 6th in the Whitfields. He advanced to the state championship at Penn State for the 3rd year in a row. Additionally, he finished the regular season 51 shots under par. This marks the end of one of the most successful high school golf careers in Plum history. I would like to wish all of the seniors the best of luck as they continue their educational and athletic careers. We have a fantastic core of talented players coming back for next year's team, where I expect to compete for another section championship. Thanks again for your recognition, and best of luck to all the teams this winter. At this point, you can say what your plans are for next year.
Hi, I'm Wes Lorish. I plan on continuing to play Division I golf. I still have not decided what I want to major in, and I still have not decided on college yet.
I'm Chase Urban, and I'm undecided.
That concludes our recognitions. After the golfers get their picture, they're free to go, but the rest of you, if you want to go, you're more than welcome. If you want to stay for the meeting, you're more than welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight.
And thank you to Brody for being our student photographer again.
Okay, Ms. Macro, citizens' comments?
If anybody in the audience would like to make a comment at this time, we ask you to step to the podium one at a time. Please state your name, your residency within Plum. We will give you 3 minutes to speak. I'll also put it on the monitor so you're able to keep track of your own time, but I'll give you a 30-second warning when you're getting close. Please address all of your comments directly to the presiding officer. Just a reminder that this is a time for sharing your suggestions, comments, ideas, as opposed to a question and answer session with the board. So when your 3 minutes are up, I ask that you step over to the clipboard at the end of the table here, just to place your name on the clipboard so I spell it correctly in the minutes. If the first person would like to step up, you may start your time now.
All right. I don't know that I've ever said anything within 3 minutes, so this will be challenging, but I'll do my best. So, hi everyone, my name is David Basista. I am a resident of Plum for 25 plus years. My oldest child was in the district for 13 years. I have one other in the district and 2 that will be soon. So I wanted to speak specifically about 2 policies that are being quoted to us from the principal at Pittsburgh as it pertains to my daughter has a hard time putting on weight. She has a metabolic condition, and with her having a lunch period that is at 10:30, and we've been told that snacks in the classroom, regardless of being cleared by the nurse or not, are banned in all classrooms based on 2 policies, one Wellness Policy 246 and the other Policy 209.1 for food allergy management. I've reviewed both of these in detail, and I don't see where that's actually the case. I actually believe both of those policies have really good intentions and should be in place. But I also believe that when there are special considerations on the other side, they should be taken into place. You know, we had to go out and get a medical note. We then had to get a 504 plan. We now have my child having to remind herself to go out into the hallway during time that she's supposed to be receiving education and have a snack. And it's actually also caused some social issues for her because people want to know, what did you do? Why are you out in the hallway? Other people want to know, why can't they have a snack? And I believe that while these policies don't actually say that snacks are banned from the classroom, so I don't know why we can't make that accommodation, even though that's what we're being told. And secondly, that, you know, just like my oldest daughter has a lot of special needs, and the district has made a lot of accommodations for her over the years, and they should for people with allergies and other needs, but we should also look at the other end of the spectrum. And that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Okay, Dr. Anderson, back to you.
Thank you. We have a combined meeting tonight, so we're going to do the reports first. And then we'll go through the discussion meeting, and then we'll come back and do the action meeting, the voting portion of it, and you guys can give your reports at that time if you have them. But we'll do our superintendent, president, and student representative reports now. So tonight, we have a fairly light combined discussion and action meeting agenda. The majority of our time in the discussion meeting portion will be focused on an update from our architects and the proposed work to be completed on O Block Elementary and Plum Middle School. During our action meeting, we'll accept the donations of 2 teachers, accept our monthly budget items, pass a school health collaboration agreement with Forbes Road. We will review a survey provided to our special needs students and parents, and we will also vote to send 3 different district employees to professional conferences to glean best practices and professional development insights to continue to hold our district to high standards of excellence. This is also the second reading and a voting on 8 different policy updates. Keep in mind that policy updates, for the most part, tend to be recommendations from the PSBA legal team and our own solicitor in relation to federal and state law and school code. Most importantly, tonight, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the time of year and the holidays celebrated yesterday and at the end of the month. Veterans Day is a wonderful time to pause and reflect with grateful hearts for the sacrifices and services made by so many Americans willing to accept the call to serve in our military and armed forces. On behalf of the board, I extend a heartfelt thank you to all those listening or watching the recording. I also want to thank our JROTC students for the program that they organized and performed yesterday. I know that it meant a lot to the veterans who attended in person and also were able to watch remotely. In that same vein, it is my hope and prayer that our student staff and their families have the opportunity to spend time with friends and/or family during the Thanksgiving holiday. I would encourage those who may be struggling for resources to reach out to the local food bank or churches in the area for support. I will also personally extend my own email, which can be found on the district website, but is dranderson@pbsd.net. If you need help getting connected, please reach out and I will do my best to help find a place for you and your family to receive items to prepare a meal or a place for you to go and partake. No one should spend Thanksgiving alone. And from the board, I wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving. Dr. Walsh, your report.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. As you just mentioned, as we enter into November, we begin to anticipate the holiday traditions that are just around the corner within our school district and within our community. There is one critical tradition that we must not overlook: being adequately prepared for unexpected delays and cancellations due to the often extreme nature of Pittsburgh's winter weather. More information can be found in the upcoming edition of the In Plum magazine on our district website and on our app. And as we always share with parents, if you have any questions, please reach out to your child's office. But as we enter November, the temperature can be unpredictable, and I will tell you, it is not my favorite time of the year, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and making the determination if we're having school or not. Yesterday, we paid tribute to the men and women who have served our armed forces and given their all to protect our freedom. The Plum Borough School District is proud of its long-standing tradition of honoring veterans. For decades, the Plum Senior High School Band has had the privilege of leading the Pittsburgh Veterans Day Parade, one of the longest running parades in the country that has been honoring veterans since 1919. All of our buildings held Veterans Day events, and they were very well attended. I see Mrs. Fight over to my right. I believe she had 68 veterans participate in the events at O Block. Here at the high school, our JROTC does a tremendous job in regards to honoring and respecting the sacrifice that our veterans have made for all of us. Finally, the schematic design for the building projects at Plum Middle School and O Block Elementary will be discussed later this evening. Design is a combination of months of collaborative effort by architects, engineers, administrators, faculty, and staff. The project aims to modernize our buildings and expand the facilities at O Block Elementary, providing additional learning space. As you recall, we came to this decision in regards to looking at O Block because of the demographic study. And in my conversation with Mrs. Fight today, we've added 19 additional students since the start of the school year. Our goal is to provide a conducive learning environment for students and staff while also creating a welcoming and accessible space for our community members. And I look forward to that discussion. That's all I have this evening, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. Student representative report, Mr. Thacker.
Good evening, everyone. So I, like Dr. Walsh and Dr. Anderson, thought it was very important to start my report off today by talking about Veterans Day. So firstly, I wanted to thank any veteran who's listening or here for protecting our country with their bravery and resilience. Just yesterday, a Veterans Day ceremony was held at the high school by the Plum JROTC. The ceremony honored all veterans and named members of the Plum community who served, as well as members who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. The JROTC also managed to obtain uniforms from different periods of war, going all the way to the First World War, which was very interesting for the students to see. I can conclude that, there was overwhelmingly positive feedback from the entire student body. I then wanted to talk about the sports, so congratulations to everyone who was recognized today. Since the fall sports are now transitioning to the winter sports, there's not too much to discuss other than the boys soccer loss to Cumberland Valley. While it is disappointing and upsetting to think that the season is now over, we as a community should be and are proud of the team for advancing to the WPIAL Championship for the first time since 2005 and advancing to the PIA quarterfinals for only the 4th time in program history. Again, the winter season isn't going to be boring either, as there's going to be exciting games and events such as rifle, bowling, and wrestling. I then wanted to talk about fundraising. Fundraising is still rampant throughout the school district, as we heard about the Jogathon, and the NHS is continuing to do fundraisers such as the yearly 11th period competition, in which students donate prizes or donate money to win a prize for their class, as well as a take on the classic penny wars, which who knew, high schoolers would want to do penny wars again. But just last Thursday, a dinner was held at Pugliano's and a silent auction was conducted. NHS members and faculty members in attendance were introduced to a Make-A-Wish family who was personally helped by the Plum NHS. I want to thank all community members for their continued support of the NHS and all fundraisers that occur throughout the district. I then want to note some school events. So this coming Thursday and Friday, the Plum Senior High School will be performing the play Miss Nelson is Missing. A lighthearted comedy, the play follows a group of students who torture their teacher until she quits. With a plot that interesting, I recommend that anyone who has a chance should go and watch the play. I also want to talk a little bit about the phone docking, which has been the center of every single report I've given. So while I may concede that the phone docking is not the most popular among students, I still believe that it is very helpful for the school environment. After talking to some of my fellow students, we agreed that this year, vaping and other drug use in the bathrooms has significantly reduced from the previous years, which makes students and the school environment more safe and comfortable. Additionally, there seems to be a bigger sense of community, at least amongst the high school. Students seem to be standing up for one another more often, diffusing fights, and even standing up for others in situations where arguments do happen. There are more assemblies, pep rallies, and other events that build this sense of a family in the Plum Borough School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our discussion portion of the meeting. Academic achievement and activities, myself as lead board liaison. We just have 2 grants to look at tonight, one by Tanya Coy at Pivic and the other by Dana Lorenz. Any problems or questions or concerns with moving those forward? Do we have 5? Wonderful. Okay. So we will move on to finance. Mr. Strotke, lead board liaison.
We're just moving forward tonight, the monthly budget for October and the expense portion. We have 5 to move it forward.
Okay. And then down to operations, Mr. Adams, lead board liaison. Oh, I'm sorry. Forbes. I did it again. You would think it's you. It's starting to act like it's at you, Lindsay, but it's not. All right, Forbes Road CTC, Ms. Ahrens, lead board liaison.
Okay, tonight we have the agreement for school health services collaboration. Basically, this is an acknowledgement of the responsibility for the delivery of school nurse services required by the public school code and related laws and regulations. Forbes CTC will provide an on-site nursing liaison who will coordinate with the district certified nurses. Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you.
Wonderful. So now operations. Mr. Adams, lead board meeting.
Right. Does it make sense to knock out B first and then just open the floor up for A?
Yep, I think that's perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, letter B here, Shelley Schaffer retroactively requesting to attend the FASTO Construction Project Management Symposium and the Facilities Transportation and Safety Conference, which took place on the 23rd through the 25th of October in Seven Springs at an approximate cost of $1,100 to the district. Factor that, or any discussion?
We got 5.
All right, and with that, I'll turn it over for the design discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. First, in my report, I had an opportunity to talk about the schematic design. I just want to take a moment to talk about how we got here. Actually, the conversation started a couple years ago with the kindergarten task force. And at that time, it was decided and the administration was charged with moving towards a full day option in regards to kindergarten and starting the planning process. As we've been working through that and we've been looking at the data and the demographic studies, we've taken board tours of our buildings at Pittsburgh Elementary, O Block Elementary, and the middle school. And I think the board members saw firsthand when we talk about equity in regards to the equitable experiences in the learning environment that our students have at O Block compared to the students have at Pittsburgh. Added was the Davis demographic study, which indicated with the building that is occurring, I just drove by Boys Park today and I always see them moving more ground. And those students that are moving into the district are filtering into O Block Elementary. And as I shared earlier, we've had students in the first quarter of this year move in, 19 additional students than were anticipated. According to the Davis demographic, that trend is going to continue with the trend of decreased enrollment at Pittsburgh Elementary, which coupled together would give the district space and capacity K through 12 in all of our facilities. We moved forward with the schematic design in regards to truly identify the cost of O Block Elementary. During those conversations, the conversation evolved to the middle school, that the middle school seems to be left out. The projects get pushed back. What are the opportunities for us to address the immediate enrollment need and facilities needed at O Block Elementary, with also addressing the infrastructure needs at Plum Middle School? As you can see in the initial presentation, we'll get into more conversation after the presentation is over. We budgeted and we talked about floating $30 million worth of bonds. The price tag is approximately $40 million. Working with Mr. Manzer and with Ms. Schaefer, we believe that there's some opportunities for us to save costs because looking at the middle school, there is not new construction, it's upgrading current existing structures. For instance, the lights in the hallways, we can get a rebate through Duquesne Light to offset some of those costs. We just received a $1.9 million grant for windows, doors, and ventilation at the middle school. So our goal moving forward is to find a win-win for both of these facilities that both need attention. But I also be remiss if I didn't remind this board that initially this started with looking at O Block Elementary in additional space to give this board or future boards the opportunity to revisit the full-day kindergarten option, which is slated to begin next year. So I just wanted to preface our presentation by just a little background and acknowledgement that both of these buildings need attention. So, Mr. Manzer, if you wouldn't mind just introducing our presenters this evening.
Sure. So from Hayes Design, or actually HDG Architects, we have Mr. Rob Renzi and Mr. Randy Hunter.
We've spent a lot of time internally discussing these plans, and this is their formal conclusion, I would say, of the schematic design phase in a presentation to the board and the community.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here this evening. As both Dr. Walsh and Mr. Manzer mentioned, we're here to share with you the results of the schematic design effort, which, if you recall, I was here about 2 months ago to do kind of an interim update as we just started on the phase, had gotten into the buildings and started looking more closely at the scope. So, although this evening will be, a high-level overview of everything, there is a more detailed package of information that we've all been working on, both Randy and myself, as well as our consultant team of engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil, structural, all the normal parts to put a building together at a site. So there's more information that went into this, but this is to show you sort of the results of that. And as Dr. Walsh mentioned, really to get to what price tag is for both buildings and then next steps and schedule and those types of things. But to remind you back in September when I was here, we wanted to look really closely at each building to find the appropriate level of scope for each building. For O Block, going back and looking at the size of the building, going back and looking at the site, the development of everything outside of the building, and trying to arrive at an appropriate level of scope for each building while meeting the educational programming needs, the capital maintenance needs of the buildings, just looking at all that more closely, opening up the hood, looking at everything above the ceilings, and getting a real good idea of the scope. So this presentation, Randy's going to walk us through the bulk of each building's, plans, those types of things, the graphic pieces. And then I'm going to step back in the end. We'll talk about cost estimates and the schedules and the next steps. So with that in mind, I'll let Randy take over. And again, the agenda is up on the screen. We're going to walk through the middle school first, then O Block, each one of those pieces, and then we'll come back to budgets and schedules.
All right, so I have not been in front of you guys. So I'm Randy Hunter. I'm project architect at HDG. And so while I haven't been here, I have been working directly with Rob and our team back at the office all the way back since the beginning of everything that we've done with you guys from the beginning of the feasibility study and facility assessment and all that. So I've been involved in everything that we've done here so far. So the next slide there. So we'll start looking at the middle school. As Rob said, we'll go over kind of just quickly high-level scope items here. So these diagrammatic plans here may look a little familiar. I think Rob showed you these back in September. We did a little bit of updating to them, but they're kind of just a graphic representation of the different pieces of the middle school that that we're proposing to be a part of an overall project. Some of them a little more self-explanatory, and maybe I can go into some detail on the others. A1, the courtyard basement waterproofing. What we're proposing in that area is, that basement has got leaks over the years, so we're going to remove the existing pavement and concrete from that courtyard area and put a waterproofing membrane over that, and then come back with new concrete on top. Basically, it's going to stay a loading dock sort of courtyard area. But we think that will help eliminate any future leaks into the basement there. A2, exterior doors, windows replacements around the whole perimeter of the building. A3, the roofs. So if you recall, within the last month or so, we had another consultant kind of join our team, an exterior envelope consultant, to help us look specifically at the roofs of both the middle school and O Block. They did a survey for us of those buildings or of those roofs to kind of help us get a better handle of what the condition is of those roofs. At the middle school, the results of those were a little less than half of the roof areas, and we're talking of the entire building. There's several roof areas, high and low. A little less than half had a good bit of deterioration, some wet insulation, that would call for, fully replacing those roof areas. So removing the membrane and the insulation down to the deck and building that back up new. And then the other, approximately half or a little more than half of the rest of the roof was in pretty good shape. A couple of the areas we know are only, a few years old. And so those areas would just need some minor repairs here and there. For kitchen upgrade, kitchen equipment upgrades, that'll be just kind of a one-for-one of a lot of the equipment at the middle school kitchen. A5 and 6 are ceiling repair or ceiling replacements, and those will go hand in hand with some items that you'll see on the next sheet with some upgraded HVAC and lighting work. Those kind of all three work together. A7, I think, is the interior door hardware. Again, just replacing a lot of the main doors and corridors into classrooms, just upgrading the door hardware, making those more secure. A8 is, we'll talk about that one here in a couple of slides when we get to some of the site work. A9, the main entrance, that's some interior and exterior work. So interior-wise, we're looking to put the SRO into an actual dedicated office space inside of the main office. And then there's some other kind of finish upgrades to the main office area, the reception desk, and just kind of brightening up the main entrance there into the middle school. And then exterior-wise, just giving the front of the building a little bit of a facelift, and we'll talk about that when we get to the rendering. And the gymnasium finish upgrades, again, for that we're talking about paint, new wall pads, new acoustical panels around the perimeter of the gym. Okay, so this page is all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing scope that's being proposed. A lot of these items here in the middle, 4, 5, 6, 7, are some equipment replacements. I think the really big key items on this slide are the new DOAS system for the 2-story classroom wing, introducing fresh air into that part of the building. That'll help with the problems that we know that are occurring there with temperature and humidity in the classroom areas of that building. And that also corresponds to the lighting and ceiling upgrades. If you're going to put new ductwork in, you're going to be taking ceilings down to do that, and that's a good opportunity to replace with new ceilings and new lighting in those areas. The other item here, M9, the dust collector. So right now that currently sits right in the center of the roof, right above the wood shop, which is just not an ideal location for it, and it's also pretty old, and so that needs to be replaced, and the best location for that is off of the roof and onto the ground.
Could you explain some of the problems that occurs with having that where it's currently positioned?
Yeah, so it's, like I said, it's showing its age, and the dust is able to just sort of seep out when it's being used, and it gets on the roof and blows around. It can clog roof drains, and really can just create problems. It can hurt the roof itself, but then you start getting those wood chips, clogging drains, and just causing standing water on your roof, which is it's causing multiple problems. So.
And the purpose of it is, because I was naive to this whenever you guys talked about it the last time. Can you explain the purpose of it, and then how we currently get rid of the wood chips?
Yeah, so
or maybe Mr. Schaefer wants to. I mean, I don't care, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as wood shop is being used and they're cutting wood, it's creating tons of dust and debris, which is then being pulled up through the dust collector, and then it should be being actually collected and then disposed of, which that's done a lot easier if the dust collector itself is on the ground, easily accessible.
And currently they do what?
A custodian will go up and empty this 55-gallon drum into a garbage bag, drag it down off the roof, and throw it in the dumpster.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure. So these are just some of the site impacts of some of these items that we just touched on. The first one, the courtyard, we talked about the proposed repairs there. The corner of the track and field, so the track actually intersects with the corner of the field there, and so we are going to just reposition the track so that it goes around and you have an entire field and the corner of the track does not cross the actual game lines. And then at the front of the building, with some of the upgrades that you'll see here in the next slide with what we want to do to the front of the facade of the building, there's just some circulation, concrete sidewalks, and some updates that we can do there that kind of align with the new proposed front entrance.
If I can bring up the field. Yes, we need to fix the track in the space because it's a safety hazard, but the field itself is a safety hazard. It's not in very good condition. I mean, I would like us, if we're going through all this expense, find somewhere to cut a corner or to figure it out, but that should be a turf field because everybody wants to play here because it's turf. How long do we think that's going to continue before that's at end of life? I don't know. I think we need to really think through that field and not just cut the corner and fix it, but I think we need to have a larger discussion of maybe not this moment, but in another couple of years, that conversation needs to happen about should we turf that because everybody wants to play here because the field's in good condition. I can't tell you how many twisted ankles my son came home with during football because it's just divots all over the place there.
Yeah, I will agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
Again, I'm worried about the lifespan here, where everybody wants to be here, and who wants to play up there?
I just had a conversation with the soccer association in regards to utilizing our facilities and particularly, the middle school for the big tournament that they hold. I hear you loud and clear, and I do think it is a bigger conversation. And in my conversations, and Mr. Manzer will explain this in a little bit, is that by the approach that we're taking, we believe that we're going to position ourselves to be able to do big, bold things at that middle school. But we need a little bit of discipline up front in order to talk about that, because if we put a turf field in, I would strongly recommend it have a fence around it. It cannot be open all the time. Cameras. Do we talk about lighting, which would be another nice piece to have? So if we're going to do this, let's do it right.
No, I agree. I agree.
Fiscally responsible too. So I'm glad you brought that up about the makeup of the field.
By the way, my son was texting going, Mom, did you bring up the turf? I'm like, yeah, he's down there. I'm like, yes. Because it's real. And again, you hit a certain level in sports and you want to play here because it's more fun. It's better to be on the turf, but it's safer on the turf. But I'm concerned this was a massive investment that lifespan's going to go quickly.
The focus of our conversation was on infrastructure,
Yep.
the bones. I believe the building has good bones. Looking at the ventilation, the HVAC, the windows, the doors. Quite honestly, the building looks like a box store, when you go up to it. It doesn't tie into the theme that we have in all of our other buildings. And that was something that I brought up in many of our meetings in regards to when I'm here at the high school or at Pivic or at O Block, you see the gold, you see the materials that the buildings are made out, and there's the theme in regards to this is a Plum Borough School District building. But we also want materials that are durable, just not nice to look at, but functional. And I think that's where you're going next in regards to some of the suggestions. So I'll stop talking, I guess.
Yeah, so this is just, again, a high-level conceptual idea for what the outside of the middle school could look like. So the light tan that you see there, that would be kind of a direct replacement of the material that's there now, which is sort of that faded purple kind of ephes material. And this could be, it could be metal panel or fiber cement, but just a kind of an updated look to that language that's there now. But then with the addition of an extended canopy out over also an extended vestibule area. Just for more coverage, kind of a wider entrance, a little bit more of a grand entrance into the building. That canopy would, what we're showing here is it's kind of coming back across the lobby and admin area, and then creating a vertical portion of that, which extends up a little bit higher than your gymnasium and your auditorium walls, which would be a good place for a nice signage. When you enter the site, you're a pretty far ways back from the building. So having some nice signage there. So as soon as you enter the property with Holiday Park on your right, you can look into the distance and see Plum Middle School. And then it also acts as kind of a screen for the rooftop equipment. There's some big pieces of rooftop equipment that sit kind of right there in front of the building. And that can kind of do double duty of blocking that a little bit from that kind of entrance.
Especially it's in a residential neighborhood.
Right.
We want to make sure that's why I'm saying the functional pieces of this. Something that came up that I thought was interesting is when we were meeting as our team, we really liked the Plum script that was at the top of the building. The logo, obviously, we're going through a process now, and that's going to be redefined. I understand. And but just in general, the Plum script, I think, looks. It's a nice touch, So
It wouldn't be LED or anything, correct?
I would imagine we would probably be efficient in regards to how we're going to go about our lighting.
I would think the community would not be happy with that.
Yeah.
So.
Could it be front lit, like backlit or
Right,
front
right.
lit? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'll see we kind of have this gold sort of piece coming through, and it extends into somewhat of a little seating canopy there on the right side. You'll see that theme kind of carried through to Dr. Walsh's point when we look at O-Block, the exterior of O-Block, and what we're kind of proposing there with the attempt of trying to create a common theme across the buildings in the district.
I think when we're looking at the facade of the building, a lot of it's near end of life. We have to replace it anyway. We might as well do it right, replace it long-term, use the right materials, and make it aesthetically pleasing while we're doing this. Dr. Zarmak, any comments you would have as we complete the middle school process?
No, I appreciate being included throughout the process and everything that's presented.
The security vestibule, moving it up to the front of the building, just like we have at the high school, is a value, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah, and that kind of gives a more consistent approach to 7 and 12 throughout that as well.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, the one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The one part of the exterior design too will allow for parent pickup to be more efficient as well. Those kids can see those cars coming, but also be undercover. They're like undercover and they like peek out around that wall. So it'll kind of be more efficient too in the parking lot at the end of the day.
And we also talked about having an awning going down the sidewalk at both of the buildings. So when kids get off and on the buses, they're not, sometimes it's really raining, and they have to go to the building. So there are some other pieces that we have talked about, and obviously cost is a factor in some of those decisions.
Just all the way back to A1 where you were talking about the waterproofing for the previous wrestling room. That all is happening above ground.
Yes.
There's nothing that would be done below ground?
Correct.
Okay.
No, and I believe, so back to that as well, because I wrote that down. We did some of that several years ago as a fix, a short-term fix. So I don't know, that's going to be all in the folders I
Internally.
gave you.
I think on the inside.
We did stuff on the outside too. So I think I gave it all to you though in a folder.
It has been reviewed, but as you shared, it was a short-term fix.
Right.
And
it was like $75,000 short-term fix.
Yeah.
So.
Part of, looking at this project, and I believe I heard the architect say it over and over and over again, you need to protect the asset of the building. Windows, doors, roofs. making sure we have efficient systems within, for long-term, and part of that was there wasn't a long-term solution to the middle school. The schematic design is giving us a pathway in regards to making some decisions, and the way that we're approaching the project at the middle school and at O Block, it gives this board ultimate flexibility in regards to the direction of where we want to go and what we can afford. So, I know maybe Rob, you can talk a little bit about that approach. Other districts have followed this same model. We're not sure even how the bids will come in. They may come in better than expected, which means we can do more. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but I believe we're moving in the right direction.
Any other questions on the middle school before we move to O Block? Okay. All right, so now we'll quickly run through O Block here in the same manner, just looking at scope. We'll start here with the site plan. What you're seeing here in this site plan is not too far off of what we've been looking at from a site plan standpoint, going back a few iterations into conceptual design. What we've tried to do here is tighten up some of the areas, minimize grading as much as possible, the front parking lot area, and also the area on the south side of the building. From the conceptual design to here, we've minimized some of those parking spaces in order to minimize the grading, especially along that very big steep front hillside. We want to try to stay away from that as much as possible, as far as grading, as little as we possibly can, but also gain as much parking as we can at the same time. We also looked at kind of tightening up the roadway that wraps around to the roundabout and the parent drop-off loop from the conceptual design. Again, just trying to, once we got an official survey of the site, just trying to work with those contours of the site and impact the site as little as we could, but get everything that is desired, which was more parking and a more efficient traveling experience in and around the site. If you scroll over to that parking, kind of just a quick overview of the parking increases. So overall, on the site now, we're looking at 169, 170 spaces total. And if you look up to the existing off hours, we put approximately 150 spaces there because in reality they're not actual spaces. It's just kind of one big asphalt paved area that everyone kind of crams their cars into. So when you're looking at that number there of the 170, the 169 total spaces, those are dedicated, permanent parking spaces that even if they're all full, you still have complete full, driving access, two-way driving access through and around the back of the building there. Obviously, the addition in the center of the back of the building, two new play areas, one for more typical playground structures, and the other kind of a more open play court area with different game lines. With the added paving, parking, sidewalk, obviously a building addition, you're just adding impervious area, which comes with more stormwater management that you have to deal with. And so what we're proposing is the kind of unused, open, former baseball field area would be used as the location to kind of send that runoff into a retention basin there. And so that would be a fenced area. It would not be a pond. It's not going to be filled with water. It'll be very similar to what you have at Pittsburgh now, essentially. Just native plantings, and it'll just be a natural area for the water on site to flow.
I would just like to point out, we need an adaptive playground at this school.
We're having that
I don't see
conversation.
that that needs to just happen.
Oddly enough, we have an all-inclusive playground at Pivot, and we need one at O Block. So that's been part of the conversations. We've been looking at various vendors, and we want all of our students to have accessibility during recess.
Yeah, all the playground equipment that we put in there, as well as just just accessing the surfaces themselves, those will all be accessible. The floor plans, again, not a lot has changed, drastically from the last time we showed these plans. We've maybe moved spaces internally around a little bit to, spread out. Special education rooms have a requirement of being, nicely and evenly distributed in and amongst all the other classrooms. So maybe some of those spaces have slightly altered their locations. But I think the main thing to take away from is, what are you actually getting with this building addition? And you can see kind of a breakdown of those totals up in those tables in the top right. You're looking at 14 additional spaces. 4 of those are general instruction classrooms. You're getting 8 additional special education rooms, and those are everything from full-sized special education classrooms to half-sized reading support rooms, and a couple of conference office type rooms, and then 2 additional special spaces. So a collaboration room, which is kind of just a flexible classroom, and then art and STEM are in the building now, but where we have them located is in the addition. So those will be 2 completely new spaces once the addition is on there.
I want to add that when you look at the growth at the grade levels, it's room to grow. And just because it's designated, for specials or special education or general instruction, these are still classroom spaces that give us ultimate flexibility. And my conversation with Mrs. Fight this morning was, what would you do with 14 additional spaces in that building? Because right now her conference room is a space. Her office area is a space. Some of the spaces that this board has visited downstairs are being utilized efficiently, but this gives us more options as kids keep filtering into that building.
Ms. Fight, you want to add anything since I put your name out there?
Oh, no. We've just been thankful to be part of the whole process. Hayes Design has been great, listening to our needs and our requests, accommodating the population specifically that we have with adaptive equipment, being able to have space where more students can come together. So they've just been great in involving us in that process, and we're appreciative of that.
When you say we, can you explain who that is?
Yeah, sorry. So I've been sharing a lot of this information with our PTO. I've also, we have a steering committee, and so I've been hosting those sessions more frequently than typical, just to give them updates on things that are being shared. I've involved the PTs and OTs for the recess equipment to ensure that we're selecting items that are going to meet the needs of our students. And obviously, just our teachers being able to just be part of that, which is good, because I made a selection and it was completely vetoed by my staff. So I'm really glad I started involving them in that. But we are just growing. Our population just continues to grow, and I welcome it. I love it. We love having new students. We just really do need space to be able to effectively service them with the needs that they have.
The first floor plan, again, not a ton has changed, from previous iterations. I think one of the things we tried to do organizational wise on both floors was to keep the classroom grade level pods together on both floors. So all of the first grade, second, third, and fourth grade, and kindergarten classrooms are all sort of in the same area together in the building, in their respective wings of the building. So the exterior, just high-level conceptual ideas. I think the overall theme for the addition was, we wanted to design something that felt like it's, kind of always been there. It fits with the building, but it's new. And so, putting some touches of more modern, newer contemporary type of materials, introducing maybe some metal panel. And again, you see sort of that gold canopy type structure to kind of signify the entrances that we also showed at the middle school. So just trying to kind of tie buildings together across the district a little bit. So the main view there on the left would be kind of what you would see as you drive around the back toward the new roundabout and drop-off area. And then the front, again, very high-level conceptual idea of trying to bring some of those elements that we just looked at from the back to the front of O Block. This obviously will be much further studied in the next phases of design for constructibility and how big are some of these elements and what do they cost. But the yellow canopy there, kind of over the entrance, which takes place of the 2 brick columns and the purple square metal roof that's there now. Introducing some bus canopies, which you also saw on the back coming out of the sidewalk there. Bringing those to the front of the building as well, just for both parent drop-off in the back and bus drop-off in the front, so that there's some protection there for the students as they're getting off the buses.
Are we adding that to Pivot?
We haven't discussed that yet, but this is part of the process of just speeding it up a little bit and having these conversations, yeah.
I think it's a little overkill, that's all.
How do you clean that translucent overhang?
So it's not completely flat. It is angled.
Okay.
And it's a little deceiving. It looks more like glass there. You won't be able to fully see through it, so you won't look up and see leaves and things that are on it. It would be more opaque.
Okay.
Than that. Yeah.
The conversation started with, we have faculty members that are on duty every day out in the elements. We have students in wheelchairs that need time to board buses and protecting them from the elements. And that really has led to the conversation of what this should look like, feel like in our buildings. It's not unusual for elementary buildings to have a canopy.
No, I don't mind it, but
Yeah.
I think if we're doing parity and this is what some of this is about, then you better plan for Pivot. Because if that's what everybody wants to see, then it has to be equal across the board.
I agree, but I think the first conversation is making sure that O Block becomes equal with Pivot right now. So I think it's a good conversation to have. And as we're going through and we're pricing out these projects, it also becomes part of the equation.
Right.
If we're going to move forward or not. Do we want to expand or upgrade the football field, or do we need canopies? I mean, these are some of the conversations that I think as a board and being transparent with the community, we need to have. It's just, we can't say we want everything on the list. We need to.
I think it could be done in phases. I'm sorry, but I think some of this can be in phases. You build this and then maybe you add the rest. I think your stuff can be done in phases.
I think O Block is more of a project. I think looking at the middle school and we're talking about windows and doors, that could maybe happen this summer.
Right.
We want to start, we have that grant money. Let's start upgrading our facilities. But it really comes down to what is a must-have: ventilation, right? Additional instructional space, and what's nice to have, a canopy. So I think these are good conversations. That's why we're having this in public this evening, to get feedback from the board, and I'm sure community members will see this and send some emails and have some thoughts on what they're saying. But at the end of the day, I haven't met anybody in the community that doesn't agree that O Block in the middle school needs some attention, especially when we're talking about the infrastructure and protecting those structures.
I have a
So.
question about the layout. Oh, the gym. As we talk about the roof, and I feel like I was looking at it and you were talking about it, so then I think I got confused, and I'm sorry. Are we doing anything with the height of that space?
Which?
The gym at Center, O Block, sorry.
We're talking about that space, and part of it is the flooring.
Right.
You know, looking at an athletic floor that we can utilize it more for a gym class and utilize it for community.
Right.
So when we're talking about, part of this was the infrastructure, but part of it, we wanted to identify what are those community spaces that people that maybe necessarily don't have students in the school could utilize. You know, we have many community members that walk that track. We have many community members that utilize our spaces. Our youth sports utilize our gyms and our spaces. So that was also a factor in regards to, you know, moving some of this forward.
Right, that's what my point about, sorry, I
Yeah.
put this on, I forgot. That was my point about the center, or O-block, sorry, gym. Like, I know we have some of our off-season sports that don't particularly like to go there because of the height and because
Yeah.
of the space. But this in-season sports get priority of the correct gym spaces.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure if we're doing something like this, we're thinking long-term about our student usage too.
Yeah. We've even talked about dropping a canopy down the middle so we could utilize that space differently if there's a book fair or some of those other things, or it's a community event. I think right now with the schematic design, a lot of this is on the table, and as you can see, when the board gave us feedback last time, we came back with recommendations, and not recommendations, but ideas in regards to some of the needs at the middle school. Because primarily our focus was O-block, and what we heard loud and clear was we wanted to see some upgrades at the middle school. It keeps getting kicked down the road, and that building needs attention just like O-block does. So that's what you're seeing in front of you right now.
O-block, again, these are just a couple, these next two slides are some interior concept renderings. This view that you're looking at here would be right at the top of the ramp. So as soon as you walk in the main entrance, you can go up the steps or the ramps. This is the intersection of the existing corridor going left to right, and then looking down into the new corridor that would lead you into the addition of the building. So again, this isn't set in stone. This is a schematic rendering. There's still a long way to go with picking out materials and colors. This is just one kind of a plum color themed option here. And this is just another angle, just slightly turned to the left there. So you're looking down, the left hallway would be the hallway leading down to the gymnasium and the cafeteria, and then the right would be a new corridor leading back into the addition.
Mary, do you want to mention some of the materials that we are considering right now?
Yeah, so flooring, LVT, a pretty typical, very durable flooring surface. The walls, obviously you'll have your drywall painted, but we could have some, right now there's a ceramic tile that runs down the wall. We're proposing that gets removed and replaced with either a new tile of some kind of texture. Ceilings can vary. You can do fun things with ceilings that even with just your standard 2x2 ceilings, you can do some interesting thing with lighting and bulkheads. As you see, we have kind of a playful bulkhead that's running down the corridor there. The library is the space that you would be seeing behind that vertical purple O-block elementary signage. We put some windows along the walls there, but kept them up high for just kind of safety and security purposes, but still allowing additional light to get into that big collaborative type of a space. And then finally, this is just some quick bullet point scope items that you might not gather just by looking at all of the drawings that we looked at. The civil or the exterior site work, we pretty much covered all of that when we talked about the site plan. Additional parking, better site circulation for pedestrians and cars, new playgrounds and play courts, and increased stormwater management. Architecturally, this building, roofs, doors, windows, all replaced. The interior, finish updates, flooring, walls, paint, ceilings, lighting. And that would include, almost every space in the building would be touched in some instance. gym, cafeteria, kitchen equipment. Special education spaces will either be new, as they're in the addition, or will be totally renovated if they are still to remain in the existing building. And same with the library. The library will remain in the general area it is now, but we have to cut through it to meet the new addition, so that would be a new renovated space. And then finally, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing scope, again, new HVAC system throughout the building, equipment replacements, new mechanical system controls. The building would be fully sprinklered as a part of this project. Again, new lighting throughout, new fire alarm system throughout, access control, door hardware on exterior doors, replace the generator, and a new clock system throughout the building as well. Any questions on the block? The scope. All right, hand it over to you, Rob.
Okay, so now that we've gone through just an overview of all the graphic pieces, as I mentioned, there's a lot of other documents that we use to sort of develop these cost estimates. We had a cost estimator do the work for the cost estimating piece. Again, this is schematic level, so we want to be conservative. We want to build in contingency because we haven't fully engineered every system in here, nor have you made a choice whether it's in or out or what else might be related to it. So we want to have contingency in the numbers as well. You'll see when we get to sort of where they add up, I'll go through some of those other line item costs, but we'll start with the middle school. And the way we approach the middle school, these line items that are numbered A's and M's and whatnot they align exactly with the key plan, floor plan that you have. So you can see sort of an a la carte or a laundry list of how the scope is made up, and you can see what each one of those pieces cost. When you look at each line item, each one of those, as you see on the side, have these contingencies built in. They have contractor overhead and profit. They have all those items within them. They do not have sort of the soft costs and those other contingencies, which we'll see on the next page. But the point would be so you can see each one of those line items, because as Dr. Walsh mentioned, there may be other ways that you want to creatively procure these items that you can save money. So you can kind of look at them in groupings. We've been working with Mr. Schaefer to talk about how some of these might be able to be done over which summer and about different needs. So those conversations have just started. But for that sake, we wanted to show you this listing in this fashion. So we don't have to go down through each one of them individually. I will say when I was back here in September, I gave you sort of a high and low range of each of these that were really sort of throwing two darts at that point, and I wanted to, just mention any of these that, for the most part, most of them fell within that range. There was a couple that were a little lower and a couple that were a little higher. One of them that did rank a little higher, that was the dust collector that we mentioned earlier. There's just, the cost of that is, the piece of equipment is itself a cost, but then to locate it outside of the building, we have to go quite a ways to the exterior building, actually all the way down to where the art rooms are, so that we're not putting it in that outdoor classroom kind of paved area there where it would just bounce noise and sound around there. So we wanted to put it in a location that made good sense, not only for collecting the dust and having access to it to where you can take out the bags that Mr. Schaefer mentioned, but we weren't disrupting other noise and classroom activity that are happening nearby. So that number, as we're panning to here, I think is M9, and you can see that's $435,000. That's a pretty big number for a dust collector, but we think it's, your program in the building, your woodshop program is robust from what we understand, and so that's used quite a bit. We looked at mobile units, we looked at other options, and this is just the one that made most sense for programming, but also alleviating the problem of what we have on the roof.
I think we also talked about it's proactive in maintaining that roof,
Absolutely.
which would cost a lot more than what we're talking about here.
It is contributing to that savings as well.
Those roofs, those godforsaken roofs.
I think I say that once a week.
We have other, as far as the roofs go, and I think Randy mentioned, scroll back one. That is item 8.3. That number there, the 1.95 million, is to do the roof areas that Randy mentioned. So a full replacement all the way down to the roof deck of the roughly 50% of the building where it's the worst situation with wet insulation. You know, most of the leaking is happening in those areas. And then select but specific repairs throughout all of the rest of the roof area where you have flashing issues or you have leaking happening related to some other situation going on. We do have numbers in working with the envelope consultant that we plugged into our team where you could do more, you know, sort of a plan for down the road to see replacing those other roof areas, what it would cost for a similar roof system that's new in here, but applying it to those other areas of the building. So you can plan for that down the road.
Can you clarify that for me? So the folks that we had that you knew have been factored into the 1.9, or you're saying we could pay an additional amount?
No, I'm saying they just assessed, they were just part of the design.
Sure, yeah,
yep. They helped develop the recommended scope.
Yep, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
yep.
And the cost of that.
Okay, but the last part that you said, so their recommendation along with yours is that 1.9?
Correct.
And then you said there were additional for above and beyond the 1.9?
They're not listed here, but we have alternates or alternate scopes that you could, you know, if you wanted to do them now or you had the bids came in good, we could consider putting those on the documents, but I think it's
No, that's perfect, yeah.
to do down the road.
Yep,
really.
okay, thank you.
Just one thing to consider is when we're talking about these projects and to the credit of this board, when the recommendation came out to take a closer look at the middle school, I think that's one of the challenges that I've run into and our administrative team has gone into is that some items have been kicked down the road. And all we're doing is deferring costs that are going to be more than what we're talking about now. So that $1.9 million roof, kicking it down the road to where it completely fails, and it's going to cost us a lot more. So a lot of these items that we're talking about here are near end of life. You know, some of the systems are at end of life. You know, there's been a couple occasions where I've come to this board, and O-Block is a very good example, that the roof is leaking in 7 different areas and we can no longer patch it. We needed to do something in order to protect it while we're going through this process. So not doing anything costs more down the road. And I just think it's going to be mindful of that. What is an average increase per year? 5%?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Three, it's a little bit better right now, but 3 to 5, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. So we are trying to do our due diligence in regards to making thoughtful recommendations for the longevity and the fiscal stability of the district. And I know that's important to all of you.
Also, too, if you're, you know, doing some of these other items that you receive some grant money for, such as the HVAC, you know, the ventilation in the building, which, as Randy mentioned, ties into new ceilings and lighting. If you didn't replace the roof area over those newly installed items, you're going to just create, you know, problems of replacing ceilings again and again. So you kind of want to pair those up, I would say, in the recommendation. Did want to point out too, 8.9, the main entrance improvements. That, you know, that's, you know, just under $900,000. There's a lot of work happening at the front of the building with the exterior and the interior for that, under $1 million there. We kind of that one came in a little under right now. So I think would be money well spent just to give as I think you said, a facelift to the front of the building, or, you know, just something that is showing the front of the building is receiving some attention as well.
And we also talked about we have the ability to scale back on some of the design.
Correct. Yeah, there's opportunity. We're in schematic. There's still time to make a lot of decisions to in or out, scale down, scale up in certain areas, whatever you want, and you guys are in control of that as we report to you at whatever intervals you want monthly. You know, we'll come with these decisions that would affect scope and budget. So at the bottom of the next page, I think, is the tally of, where this project sets with. So hard construction costs are $10.6 million. So that's kind of what you could expect to see on bid day if you're doing like right now, or relatively close to now. All of this stuff. And as we mentioned, there may be ways to creatively subdivide or procure some of these in different ways to save some money. The escalation that we have is about 4%. So and that's if you were, again, to do all this in one big project, bid it out, and you're allowing about a year of escalation in there if you were to do it that way. And then the soft costs are roughly 15%. So that's all of your, if you need furniture, equipment, our fees, professional fees, a construction manager, permits, legal fees, all those kinds of things are wrapped into that soft cost number. That brings you again down to the bottom of just over 12.6 million for this. And again, if you do some of those projects separately in different fashions, where you're procuring them through state contract or something like that, you can save on some of those soft costs in that regard as well.
I just have a quick question. For M8 with the middle school, does that address the sewage issue that we all kind of noticed at the middle school?
That addresses some of it, yes. It addresses definitely the trap at the front of the building, and addresses, I forget the specific, it was the shower, there's existing floor drains and showers in the building, if I remember, Schaefer, that addresses those drains in those areas. That
Okay.
are unattended right now.
Thank you.
All right, so then moving on to the O-Block budget. Now this is more, this isn't line item by line item like the middle schools, because those were more scope specific items. This is showing you more larger chunks of the cost estimate. The first item here is the existing conditions and selective demolition. So again, we have to go through and tear out many of the things in certain areas of the building to renovate it, site and building. So that's related to that amount, 400,000 or so for that. The next line item, the largest line item, is the building renovations and new addition construction. That's wrapping in all of those, the construction of the addition, all the renovations within the building, the roof, the windows, the mechanical systems, all those are in that number. Again, there's a more detailed version of this, but this is the high level for consumption this evening. The site work line item, just over $2 million. We were able to ratchet this number back close to $1 million actually from when we were here. I think it was a year ago.
That was the front of the building with the grade and over near the cafeteria.
Trying to just, yeah.
Yeah, that was with the way that we function with Meet the Teacher and no longer need that parking for some of the events like the former open houses. We decided we don't need all those parking spaces. And it was one of the first items that we looked at was, there's a way of saving $1 million by maintaining that space, correct?
Yeah, I was really trying to get as much parking as you can, but not do all the massive regrading and retaining that would have to happen at the front of that building, which was the bulk of that savings there. The next line item is just, as I mentioned, the contractor general conditions, overhead bond. These are the things that the public bids require. They will have these in their bids on bid day, so we want to account for those line items. So we have healthy percentages in for that. Having a design contingency of 5%. So as I mentioned, we're early in design. We have to account for a pot of savings if we dig in deeper in an existing building and we find something else. If we want to do something slightly different, there needs to be a contingency for those changes in design. Escalation, again, allowing for a percentage of escalation over the time from between now and when it might bid. That gets your estimated construction cost subtotal at $22,400,000. So that's, again, what you might see on bid day if you were to do that in roughly a year. Then we have a construction contingency. Again, this is for while it's in construction, if you have unforeseen conditions, if you have things that pop up that are changes during the construction of the building. You find something underground when you're doing the excavation for the addition that you have to address. You have a contingency for that amount. The goal is to not use all that, but you want to have it there. And then again, our soft costs for fees, all your insurance, your permits, furniture, we want to allow for a certain amount of new furniture in the building and new equipment in the building as well. So all of those factored in, just under $27 million for this building. Again, this is down about $1.5 million or so from when we were here. I think it was in December when we were kind of summarizing the study with everyone at that point. So we had gone back, like I said, the site, we looked at the site, ways to scale back on that, and then how, when we were reconfiguring spaces within the existing building, how to maximize and economize how to do that, and just tighten up things where we can. So as it was mentioned, I think when you look at the two of them together, I think you're close to, 39 million together. So
it's a number we're not comfortable with.
A little bit high together, correct. So being that we're in schematic design, we, on our detailed estimate, we have areas highlighted where, we can go back and look at some more items more closely. As was mentioned in some of these presentations, the canopies, we can look at those. We can look at different roof systems. We can look at different exterior wall systems. We can look at a lot of different ways to scale back on different things to help save money in different ways, if that is desired.
There's strategies too, is for the board is to bid a project a certain way so there's alternates available. Sometimes you got to get the real cost to know what your decision making is, and we've discussed there's a lot of effective strategies to be able to take that all the way through the bid, even to be able to make decisions on that day or shortly thereafter. And I've seen that be rather successful. Is the escalation is an estimate, and only the contractors know what they can purchase these products for and if they're available. So there's strategies that we'll continue to implement all the way through, and it does take all the way till bid day to sometimes find those answers.
I would ask, Mr. Manager, can you talk a little bit about the bond and some of the happenings today? And so
Sure.
It ties into what you're talking about.
Yep,
right
so
now.
we closed today on our first $10 million bond. Very successful bond issuance with the upgrade that we received immediately prior to the bond issue. A very successful sale and conditions prior to the election, and having that settlement today, it just produced very good financial results for the school district. And then we will have 2 additional years, they're calendar year based. So this is our 2024, we'll have a 2025 and a 2026. And you also have the flexibility built into those plans to modify them. We're going to try not to modify them, but you have flexibility in that type of a structure where you're not borrowing all the funds up front, and we can plan out this project so we can be fiscally responsible all the way through. We're not borrowing anything really a lot in advance. We spread that out. They're very efficient bonds. You can refinance them every 5 years. And there's also many strategies financially that you can use. We have a cafeteria fund. We talked about some cafeteria items here that we can utilize. We have a construction fund. We've talked about that in our budget workshops. There's definitely ways that we can go about managing this project. It's a large number. It feels like a budget workshop. Maybe you get a preview of the budget workshop, but we've planned financially for this for years, and we executed successfully today the first leg of that $30 million debt financing plan.
Have any questions for me on scope items, cost items?
I guess for those in the board that have never done this before, and I think I'm maybe the only one sitting here that's done this before, so I'd like you to explain when you talk about the bidding process, because yes, I think there's places we could scale back, yet provide more stuff for our kids, and maybe not so fancy flashy, but I'd rather the stuff, I'd rather the space for them to utilize. Whether it be classroom things, whether it be making sure we have the proper playground equipment, the proper field at the middle school, whatever those might be, I'd rather spend money on stuff that the kids are gonna use than making something look pretty. Like, it should look nice, it should look clean, it should look updated. I don't really care that we have beautiful new signs and everything looks pretty. I care that there's better utilization for our students. So as we go through the budgeting process, and we look at what that should look like, and then we're going to do the bidding piece of that, which is huge. I think it's important to explain to the board what that bidding would look like, because right now you see this and that's what you think you're bidding out. And we have the ability to change what that is, or to look for some modifications as well. So I think it's important that the board understands what that bidding process is going to look like, because it's very long and it's very tedious.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. I think it's, we're early on, as I said, in the project. We can make a lot of choices, we can make a lot of recommendations. I think as you go through each phase of design, we are going to need to reprioritize what is the essence of the project, right? We have to find out what, if we're meeting all the needs of the classrooms, the students, the educational programming component of it, and if some of those items, such as the aesthetics, also want to be a part of the project, but you don't yet know whether you can afford those. As Mr. Manager mentioned, there's avenues for having those still in the documents where they are alternates, and you have a design for some of those items. And if after you receive bid, you go out for bid and you receive bids on those, you can afford any of those extra items, that you keep those in the project. If you can't, you make those choices as to what stays in as the essence of the priority project.
That's been at the forefront of our conversations. I think Ms. Fite recalls a conversation I had with her, going into one of our meetings, is that, at the end of the day, it's about our students and our instructional spaces where students and teachers are working together. And the aesthetics is going to take a back seat. But if we can tie in a theme in our buildings in regards to making them aesthetically pleasing but functional, to have a canopy where parents aren't standing out in the rain when they're trying to sign out their kid, to me that's a win-win, and we should have those conversations as we're going through this.
Most often, if not all the time, you're starting with what you want to have in the project in schematics. You want to put it all out there, cast a wide net, get everything in there. Although we have been designing with economy in mind, there's also just seeing what all went into the project and getting it all identified now. And there will be, making choices as to what stays and what moves to the top of the list, what moves down the list, or maybe gets removed, or another avenue to how to achieve it. Maybe it's on a capital project later or something. But those decisions are going to happen throughout.
Yeah, and I will say that to everybody. So, like, here's the best example. We did Pivot, and then we did Pivot 2.0. And I came onto the board as sort of the steel beams were getting put up at Holiday Park, right? And we had monthly conversations, and it was, okay, we realized the walls at Pivot are a pain to clean, they're hard to maintain. For this much more money, we're going to get something more aesthetically pleasing, but also that's going to sustain longer and look cleaner and be more functional. So those conversations will all continue as we go through that stuff. But like that's just as you say, like it continues to build and change. That's part of it. Like, again, we learned what we learned from the first building. I still believe Holiday Park should have been built bigger, but whatever. That was already done when I came on. But we learned from those mistakes or things we could have made better, and we brought them to Holiday Park. So it's just something to think about, so you're not locked into this. Does that make sense?
I was going to give you I'm sorry.
I said a real question. So to Mrs. Stepnick's point and your point, so this almost $16 million, when it comes to the bidding process, that's going to go more in a line item?
Oh, no, you won't see each, you're saying what will you see on bid day or?
Right, well, for like the 16 million, so we're not gonna have, this is, $1 million, kind of how we did for the middle school.
You won't see it that broken down at all. You'll see it, the state requires you to bid it in minimum of 4 primes. The general construction, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. You can do more prime contracts like roofing or whatever, but you have to maintain those 4. So you'll see 4 numbers that total up to, the 22.4 basically. You'll see a mechanical bid, an electrical bid, a plumbing, and general construction.
I do believe it's a great point there that you made, is that this is dictated by state procedures and bidding laws, and what you will see here is happening in every school, and probably more than just schools, and we will comply with that process. We have to, but you do have local control still. So you go through the same process, the same bidding. The contractors are all familiar with it. The experienced architects are familiar with it. They bid a lot of jobs. We only do one every 20 years or so, but you'll get comfortable and familiar with it over time too. You'll start to see that evolve over time, and we'll make sure that you're informed as we go along.
We have multiple meetings per week, I believe. And just to give you a sense of the timeline, Thursday, I believe you gave us the slide deck that we see here. Friday morning, after we had an opportunity as an administrative team to look at it and give feedback, changes were made Friday morning, and later that day, this was moved forward to the board. Our goal is to continue to work on looking at this data and coming back with recommendations to this board so that financially we're all in a very good place. The ultimate goal is to find a win-win. We believe there's opportunities to find cost savings and at maybe O block and continue to have some enhancements at the middle school that will not take away from the project. So this is still a work in progress, and I don't know if we could have got it to this board any sooner or be more transparent than putting it out like we did. We're putting it out there for the community to see, for the board members to discuss. And there's still ongoing conversations in regards to what this looks like, but there was a lot of work over the last few months in order to get to this point. And from my perspective, I echo what Ms. Veit said, and I think Dr. Zarmak would agree, that Hayes Design Group has been really receptive to what our feedback is, what our teachers are saying, and ultimately what the board is saying in regards to coming back to the table with more recommendations for you to decide. So we'll continue to do that, but we have some work to do on the administrative end to come back with some more focused recommendations for this board after hearing the feedback that we're hearing this evening.
Is your anticipated conclusion or closeout the end of 2027? Is that the way I read this?
Yeah, you're on the schedule page, I think you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can, is it okay to move on to that then, or? Yeah. The next 2 slides were, I guess it's 2. It's kind of looking at each building and how a schedule might unfold. Now, middle school is a little more, there are other ways to skin the cat here, I think. So this is just if you're to take all that scope and bid it out, and it's not enough, it's too much scope that you could do in construction time over one summer, from June to August, do all that work and be done without disrupting the students, which is ideally what we'd like to do. So this is kind of looking over 2 slightly extended summers. That's one way we could put this project together. I think if we're creative and we look at ways of procuring it or say contract for certain things, there's definitely different ways to do this. I think the bottom line here though for the middle school is for any scope you want to do and bid out competitively, as I mentioned, as the state would require, any of that you want to do for this summer's construction period, we would need to get started on that just in order to kind of allow the design to unfold, but allow the bidding process to take course as it needs to, advertise, have the documents out there, have enough time for the contractors to put their price together, do all the legal pieces of it, and then procure the materials and get them here in time to start building. You kind of need to get started. So we were suggesting that if the board does want to move forward with something related to the middle school, and you don't have to know exactly what it is, we just need to know generally where we are with something, that we would need to start the design and continue the design into the next phase, design development, construction documents for that project in December start. So we didn't plan anything in terms of what that would look like on our side, other than we know we need to get started if we want to do that really fast for middle school. Your question was more on the elementary school, I believe. Is that right?
Just the whole project. It looks like the elementary school's gonna go well in.
Yeah, the elementary school is much
into
longer
27 school
duration. Yeah, the middle school we can kind of plan depending on what pieces we want to do, what makes sense to do over this summer, what makes sense to be combined. If you're doing if you're doing mechanical work and ceilings and lighting, some of those items take a long time to procure, like the dedicated outside air mechanical system that would be set on the roof. Those take time to get. We may not be able to get those for this summer. That might have to be the next summer. So we have to look at all of that strategy of what could happen. So we would need to kind of get moving on some of those. Likely work with, if the board is interested in looking at construction manager, start talking with those folks about schedules and phasing and those types of things. But O Block is a longer construction period overall, because you site work, you're excavating for foundations for an addition, you have to plan around. We've started conversations on our Friday calls with how you might phase that building into do this to create swing space and move kids over here, and start looking at how long that might take and still hold construction in the building safely and securely and with as least amount of disruption as you can. We started looking at those conversations, but it is going to take 18 months or so for the construction piece of it. I'm sorry, 22 months for the construction piece of it, when you factor in all those pieces that I just mentioned. I think similarly, the way we looked at this, we sort of looked at it several different ways. We tried to look at it when you would want to move into the building. You kind of want to time it around the start of school if possible. So that's how this is gauged, working backwards from a substantial completion at the bottom. The closeout phase is sort of all paperwork and all the final pay applications and all those things. There's months that go on for that, but you want to look at kind of getting into the building in July, and then the July of 2027, the 22 months works backwards from there. And you can kind of see the different phases that we would need to do, construction documents, design development, that take about 4 months. We just finished schematic design. So similarly, getting started in December would be a good idea if possible. I know it's just a suggestion, but.
I was going to add, just looking at neighboring schools who've had larger construction projects that were delayed because they didn't have the equipment, they didn't have the material. And what I like about this plan is that it gives us time to get that material on site so that when they're prepared to work, they have what they need in order to move forward. I'd like to believe the supply chain is a little bit better than it was a few years ago. But there's still challenges with all the work that is being done in the Pittsburgh region and nationally. There's a lot of construction. All you have to do is take a ride 20 minutes in any direction and you can see what's happening in the region. So that's what I liked, and that was a part of our conversation about, especially at the middle school, even if we have to store the materials, could we look at our bus garage? Could we set up a space so that we can ensure that there's minimal disruption for our students.
And that's a question I have. So are we anticipating having to have temporary learning spaces for our students during the...
Outside, sure, no.
Okay.
The goal would be to start with, the way this is built is, I'm gonna go the other way. You can see bidding and award phase, which would occur next summer, August timeframe. The goal would be to kind of break ground. You want to build the addition first, so that you have that extra space that you can. Again, it'll be still tight for Mrs. Fife to move people around, but she'll have this addition that's happening at least to look forward to. But that would create swing space, so that then you could, let's say, locate all of the classrooms that are, if you're looking at the front of the building on the right side, the kindergarten and special ed rooms over into there, and then you lock that area off and you do the renovation work in there. And then when that's complete, you move another group into there until you've kind of moved that around the whole building and finish it. And so the goal would be to not have any temporary classrooms outside of the building proper. And that's how we're looking at it so far. Again, we want to get, if you're thinking of a construction manager, there's different ways to look at this, but I think this is a good, simple starting point to make sure that we're kind of meeting all those goals.
And that takes into consideration the population of students we're talking about as well, being able to do that. Okay.
I mean, it's never easy. You have to, there's going to be some noise. There's going to be temporary partitions that are cutting corridors partially the size they are today. There's things to work around, but it's the goal is to keep everybody within the building.
Yeah, I just know with our special needs students, we'll have to be extra cautious.
That is something that has been in every one of our conversations.
Perfect.
We just talked about it this morning, Ms. Fight and myself, and making sure that when we're moving students into this new space, that we're able to move students that we can bring some consistency to, that we're not moving again.
Right. Yep.
So those have been ongoing conversations. Our students have been the center of all of our conversations in regards to what these learning spaces look like.
That's wonderful to hear.
Questions on anything?
Mr. Manager, you want to talk about next steps?
First, I just wanted to thank for your time and energy, a lot of dedication. The behind the scenes work is impressive that your team has put together. There's many more consultants that are on these calls. The tiles on our windows of these virtual calls are many, and just pass along our thanks to your team as well for their work on the project to date. Next steps, of course, there's actions that the board will need to take to formally allow HEG to move on to the next steps of the project. Obviously talking about the financial plan as a part of the budget workshop, that we'll continue that conversation as well in December. And as those phases proceed, you'll be provided that information in advance and time to review and ask questions, and we'll continue to provide you updates in the executive summaries.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to personnel. Mr. Caligari, lead board liaison.
Yeah, just Mrs. Kranak, our human resource managers, requesting to attend a professional development conference in Altoona in February at a cost of $1,000 to the district. Any discussion? Got 5? Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, next up, policy, Ms. Arendt, lead board liaison.
We have the second reading of 8 policies. These are all revisions to existing policies based on regulations and PSBA recommendations. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I just have, it's not a discussion. I'll keep it brief. In policy 339, there's just one section in there that has to do with a school employee being able to take a 4-year absence if they're elected to a paid full-time elected.
County position.
County position for 4 years. And then that, school entities have to hold a position for them if they want to return. But to be eligible, they have to have worked at least 5 years prior. So I have a lot of issues with that. Unfortunately, the reason I bring this up is really just for the public's knowledge. This is a law that was enacted in 1949. It was Act 14 of 1949. And it was written so long ago that they still spelled the word employee with one E at the end. So I just want to put on the record that I don't agree with it for a number of various reasons. I object to it for its targeting at school districts. I don't believe that's appropriate. It's not done in any other fields. It's very not well explained.
Yeah.
Also, as a business person, which is what board members are while we govern, I don't know why we would ever hold a position for someone for 4 years and then be like, yeah, just come back. And it's discriminatory to say you can run for an office, but you have to be there 5 years first. Like, what makes you less qualified if you're there for a year or 2 years or 3 years? So the whole thing has me bothered, but we have to vote for it because it's a law. And unless somebody wants to go and, try to get this changed through their legislative options, but I just want to put it out there because the public sometimes, we went through this a lot with COVID. There were things we had to do that we just didn't have a choice. And this is one of those times where I totally disagree with this, but I don't have a choice. I got to vote for it.
Mr. Caligiuri, welcome to my world.
In every other educator's world.
There's many unfunded mandates, and there's laws that are passed at the federal and state level. This one at the state level, and part of aligning our policies with the state, because if we do not do this, it really puts the administrators and our employees in a very difficult position of not following the law if it's not approved at the local level. And at the end of the day, we're going to follow the law. And it leads to that conflict. And I can tell you, as I read information that comes from the federal and state governments, I share your frustration. But at the end of the day, when it's the law, we will follow it. So.
Yep, for the record, I agree 100% with you. Where else can you go have your job held for 4 years and then return?
Because you chose to be elected to something. But you have to be there for 5 years, but you're here.
Right, but still a 4-year
If you work here, you're out for 5 years. You just
We'll
see
in
your
10th
year when you come back.
Okay, with that said, do we have 5 to move these? Okay.
Thank you. And lastly, Student Services, Mrs. Stepnick, Lead Board Liaison.
We have Dr. Denise Loris, Director of Special Education Student Services, requesting to attend the Department of Ed conference in Hershey, February 4th to the 7th. The approximate cost is $700 to the district. Any issues with that?
Do we have 5?
Yeah, I think everybody raised. Sorry, I think after last month, my voice is finally just going. I apologize. CMCI student survey and the parent-student survey letter. Does anybody have any input, any questions?
I would add that this is a required survey from the Borough of Special Education.
Right.
We are mindful that we are sending this out because we are going through an audit process. I've talked to Dr. Laura about this and our approach. Our approach is going to be, she is going to send a letter to parents. And the parents are a child's first teacher. They will decide if they are going to complete the survey or not. It is their decision if they want to move forward and share that information. But in regards to the survey, it's not our survey. It's part of the compliance from the state.
And I think that was something we actually talked about when Ms. Sedlak was heading up our plan, right, for student services, was how can we do our own surveys that are more in the same direction so that we were gathering the same data?
Yeah.
And how do we continuously work to improve that?
I have my own
So I'm-
thoughts, yeah.
we all, yeah, but it was
Yeah.
because you're doing this and then we're making sure we want to make sure the questions are starting to remain somewhat consistent as we're asking our parents and our students, what can we do better? What do you need? And we know where do we have to follow? So then it helps with the audits and it helps with the planning process.
Although I don't like some of the questions.
No, 100%. I agree.
So like,
But
you
they're
can't
there.
change them,
Right.
but yeah.
I would say I have my own, I would use the
I
word.
like to word them in a different
Yes,
way if there
that's
are
exactly
questions.
right.
But at the end of it, like,
Yep,
the goal would be
consistency.
to state, right, the consistency part of
To
it.
your point of internal controls, I have my own strong opinions in regards to holding ourselves accountable and having internal processes that align with where we need to be and collecting that data, not when the state is coming in to do a monitoring, but ongoing so we can get better. And as you're aware with the realignment in our Pupil Services Department, we have a lot of expertise leading that department, and I've already heard internally from stakeholders about they feel better about the direction that the department's moving in and the opportunities for our students. So Dr. Lord, anything that I missed that you would like to add?
No, just to clarify, it wouldn't be a letter that I'm sending the families, it would be an email, just to be completely clear. And we have gone through our student information system to identify the families of students who receive special ed. And as you mentioned, it would be up to the family if they would like their child to participate.
A silly detail just to say, like, in one of the questions, it's going to kids 14 years older, you're fine, Mike. 14 years or older, and it says at your high school. 14 years or older could be 8th graders as well. So just to clarify that confusion to our families, that if we're wanting them to answer in 8th graders, to answer the survey, but they're not in high school. Yeah.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
Well, and that goes back to like, and I'm sure we can go back to the
Phrasing.
notes of it, was staying consistent and keeping our setting our bar high and remaining that way, so we're prepared for.
Yeah, so
you know.
we're in the driver's seat.
Right.
Is there a minimum response rate that we need from the state?
No, there is not.
I think you just made a decision for many families.
Do we have 5 to move that forward? Okay. That concludes our discussion portion of the evening, so we'll move through our action meeting here. We'll carry over the roll call from the discussion meeting. Mr. Adams is still on, right? Yeah, okay. So we'll take a motion to recommend approval of the following minutes as listed below.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, academic achievement and activities, myself, lead board liaison. On behalf of the board, I'll recommend approval to accept and resolve the following 1 to 2 as listed.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I do not have a report for this evening. So next up, we have community engagement, inclusion, and outreach. Dr. Richardson, lead board liaison. Do you have a report for the evening?
Yes, I have a brief report. So as was mentioned earlier, it was Veterans Day yesterday. November is Veterans and Military Families Month. So thank you to everyone that has served and continues to make sacrifices to protect our country and our freedoms. Rachel's challenge in the positive behavior intervention and support program is making a huge impact on the behaviors of our students. Data at all levels demonstrates the discipline referrals are down at all levels as kindness and acceptance are replacing bullying and negativity in our schools. Next week, we will have our 3rd meeting of the Portrait of a Graduate. So great work has been done at each of the meetings by the team and beginning to identify the skills and attributes that we want our graduates to leave PBSD having mastered. And lastly, our Best Buddies programs are off to a great start with the highest number of students involved in this program that pairs typically developed students with our students with special needs. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, Finance, Mr. Stropke, lead board liaison. Letter A, recommend approval to accept and resolve the monthly budgetary report for October 2024.
On behalf of the board, I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do you have a report for this evening, Mr. Schwab?
Not this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Ford Road CTC, Ms. Arendt, Lead Board Liaison. Letter A, recommend approval to accept and resolve the School Health Services Collaboration Agreement.
On behalf of the board, I'll make that recommendation.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do you have a report for this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay. Intergovernmental, Mr. Stropke and Mr. Caligiuri, co-lead board liaisons. Any report for the evening?
No.
Okay. Next up, legislative, Mrs. Stepnick, lead board liaison. Any report for the evening?
Nope, just a brief mention that now that the elections have concluded, for the most part, we still don't know about a US Senate race, I will be inviting all legislators starting of January, if they'd like to join us virtually or otherwise, to talk about their legislative agendas and to hear some of the conversations about what we're facing as a district and our importance, things are our level of importance.
Wonderful, thank you. Operations, Mr. Adams, lead board liaison. Letter A, recommend retroactive approval for Shelley Schaefer to attend the PASBO Construction Project Management Symposium and the PASBO Facilities, Transportation, and Safety Conference on October 23rd through the 25th, 2024 in Seven Springs at an approximate cost of $1,100 to the district.
And the board will make that recommendation.
Second.
Who was the second? That's all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Adams, do you have a report for this evening?
No report for this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Personnel, Mr. Caligiuri, lead board liaison. Letter A, recommend approval for Lisa Craniak, Human Resources Manager, to attend the annual PASPA Convention in Altoona, PA from February 26th through the 28th, 2025 at an approximate cost of $1,000 to the district.
On behalf of the board, I'll make that motion.
Do you have a Renee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Letter B, oh, did I do that? We did it, no, we gotta do them both, okay. Recommend approval to accept and resolve the following 1 to 7 as listed.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do you have a report for this evening?
I do not.
Okay. Next up, policy, Ms. Arendt, lead board liaison. Letter A, recommend approval to revise the policies 1 to 8 as listed below.
On behalf of the board, I'll make that recommendation.
I'll reluctantly second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do you have a report for this evening?
No, I do not.
Okay. Next up, Student Services, Mrs. Stepnick, lead board liaison. Letter A, recommend approval to accept and resolve the following 1 to 2 as listed.
On behalf of the board, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Stepnick, do you have a report for tonight?
I will have one actually next month. We go on our AIU board retreat this week, Thursday night, Friday. And we have a bunch of different learning stations we're going to be going through. And so I'm looking forward to having some good updates on that.
Wonderful, thank you.
And before you close out, I forgot to mention, December 5th is Christmas at Plum Creek. So please make sure you attend. We usually have some students performing and participating.
Yep.
So.
And they'll have good buses to ride on to get to and from. All right, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Upcoming public meetings, letter A, reorganization discussion budget workshop meeting Tuesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. here in the library. And then action meeting Tuesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. here in the library. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Can
opposed?
everybody stay seated? I need to take a photo. This is the whole thing.
Of all of us sitting here?
Yes.
Okay.
Former student has to write a report on our board meeting. If it needs a photo and gets extra credit. Perfect. Photo. Hold on.
You have to be here.
Maybe, could you take it? You might.
That's proof, right?
Look, I was given this assignment yesterday, so let's just do this. That's what I was like, checking my phone, I'm like, no, we're still here.
You're not gonna be able to do that, are you?
Can you get us sort of, kind of?
This photo shot me into it, so.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, anything. Oh, yeah. For you guys.
I'm self-employed, I think I'm out.
They don't wanna like.
We didn't see. I didn't
When they got the first down and it's part B.
I didn't see.
Like they don't put names in.
So we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Okay, because we have parents, like everybody's asking. And we thought they were like at the end of the process, we thought this would approve that. We didn't know, so we're just trying to. So now it's like, oh, no. Yeah, because now they want to know because our season starts this week. So they don't know who's coaching. So that's the thing. Who was it? Coaches.
I closed out.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't mind.
Yeah, because we had no idea.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like that.
Because they don't.
I get it. I understand.
Job. All sudden pick up news or something. And then all of a sudden it's an issue.
I get you.
It's like other positions, sometimes I'll put them out there. So,
I have no clue where any of the bands are. Gotcha.
Cassandra Smith, that's who's here. Sean that person's a volunteer. The other two are assistant. So, Shane Game and Cassandra Smith. She's here as IT. I know she does a great job at IT. And she was a coach at Norfolk. But I don't know. And then that one's a volunteer. Sean. It's a couple dollars now. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, we know, obviously, we know Shane has been an assistant coach.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he was
So
explaining.
personnel, they don't give out names.
Okay.
During the meeting, the site has to tell the employer their names, so they just do that.
Go through the things. Take off through because the bottom one has the eight lights. Oh, that's Dr. Blair's was just putting it there.
Oh, the other one Bob's basket.
I'm gonna be right behind you real quick.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
you're right.
So, appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
had
get you on there. I'm gonna get you up here.
We had no clue.
Yeah, the kids were up in arms. We start practice Friday.
I've had that conversation 50 times.
Yeah, oh, they start Friday.
Yeah, they wanted to
Oh,
know
okay.
the coach now.
No, we appreciate that, thank you.
These guys were like, they're waiting to hear who the swim coaches were. Because they don't hear it, and they're on the booster.
Yeah, we don't know the process.
And I told them how it's done. It's not put out there for.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not true.
We make a recommendation, I recommend Mark for a position, and he has a job, and the board says no, while his employer finds out, and there's backlash.
Right.
He could sue us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So a lot of like things like you heard me say about some of the hoops we have to jump through.
Sure.
It's not like any other place. Hopefully your programs are even more well.
That swim program is doing very well. Yes, they are.
Does your son?
Yeah, Ben's doing a program too. Just had a college visit down in Cal U, so he's really in the football thing.
Yeah.
We were down there looking at stuff and game day visit. So they got him. It's in his head.
He'll be a
working
senior
out.
next year, right?
He'll be a senior next year, yeah. So he's got swim on the brain.
And we got middle school just started.
Middle school.
My son's the only,
We're trying to build the program.
my son's the only boy on the middle school team. So.
They did phenomenal. They won their championships in the first year. Girls did.
When it's worked in 1984, I stood in here and I'll jump into the pool, go into a ball, and get float. Never happened.
Didn't work.
I think it was Plum.
I went to Hempfield and our whole thing was just to sink the canoe.
But
And then
basically,
he'd
he told
make
us, he said, you're not gonna make it. You're on a boat, you're done.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for sharing the
All right.
information.